Okay, hi. So this is the Drupal 8 usability meeting for February the 20th, 2018. And we have 2 or 3 topics for today. Jennifer Hodgson suggested that we talk about tours and the competing ideas for the help system on the help system overhaul. And Christina could talk about the field UI design that's being discussed in the Modernizing JS initiative. So any preferences for which one we start with?
You can start with the tour.
Sorry, I didn't get that.
You can start with the tour if that's okay for Jennifer.
Cool. Yeah,
okay.
Let's do that.
I posted the issue link here. I'll copy it into the chat. Does that get done in the recording?
No, it's not. So we
okay.
The numbers.
So it's Drupal.org/project/Drupal/issues/1921152 is the issue, which is called Start Providing Tour Tips for Other Core Modules. And the motivation, this was an issue that was filed quite a while back. So we have this tour module in Drupal core that's been there for quite a while, but we only have about 5 tours. There's several from the multilingual initiative and then a couple from views, and that's about it in core. People started thinking about tours soon after the tour module was there, but there wasn't any sort of decision on what the standards should be for tours and which pages needed a tour and which ones don't. Is everybody familiar with the tour module? Do we know what it is? It's supposed to give you kind of a online tour of an administration page. Basically, can start at the top and give you an overview, and then go down to particular fields on the page and kind of talk about what, well, not talk, but write about what they do. So the question is whether we should make some better standards for what pages need tours, and then also if a page does need a tour, how it should be structured or written. And then the other thing I think is maybe to make sure that we're not just making a tour for a page that's completely unusable, instead of just fixing the page so it's more usable. So, for instance, the status report might have been a good candidate for a tour a while back, but since it's been redesigned by certain people that might be in this meeting, it's a lot better and maybe doesn't need a tour anymore. So,
do we know if tours are successful?
I have no idea. I dug up this issue because it's been around for a while, and we're thinking, people that are interested in documentation, it's another way to provide documentation within Drupal. And I don't know if it works or not. I don't know if people notice that there's a tour on a page, because there really aren't that many, so they probably wouldn't. But it's something that we could do if it's useful. I don't know if it is useful, but that would be a good thing to test.
Yeah. I have no idea.
How could we test that?
Christina, I can't hear you very well at all.
Sorry. How could we test that? I mean, what would be the way to test that? Maybe with an online, I don't know, a questionnaire or something like that, or with statistics actually, or I don't know. That's a good question.
I'm not the usability testing expert, so I'm not going to even try to answer that. Silence from the rest of the crew.
Yeah, well, I mean...
Uh-oh, we lost Christina.
She'll be back. I guess there is a way. We have, Gabor, you'll remember this, that we had core module enablement statistics from the DA a while back, but we weren't sure how clean that data was to to be sure that we can make decisions based on it. So there is a potential for quantitative data, but I'm not sure how good it is.
Although right now, I mean, enabling the tour module doesn't buy you anything because there are only like 3 tours in core. So I don't know. I mean, just finding out how many people have enabled the module doesn't really do much right now, I think. Also, I mean, it's not going to be useful unless there are tours, I guess. And we don't know if it's useful until we have some tours to test it on.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, and there's the question if people, agencies or whatever, have ever created their own, right, and never shared back.
Right. Yeah, who knows? And then I think it's part of the standard install profile. So if you install with the standard install profile, you do get the tour module along with the help module. But that doesn't, like I said, it doesn't really buy you anything right now because there aren't any tours.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. It's hard to say, right? It's a bit chicken and egg then.
Yeah. I mean, ideally, I think there have been all these usability tests of Drupal over the years that I've been involved in the project where, they get new people and give them tasks and see what they try to do to solve the tasks. And it would be interesting to see, if there's a tour on a particular page that they figure out they need, whether they actually notice that tour and try to get help that way. That would be an interesting usability test, but it hasn't been done because we didn't have any tours, I guess.
Right, but you're right that no which UIs are stumbling blocks for people. So
yeah,
it could be a place to look for potentially useful, where it would be potentially useful to even add tours, right? Was it?
Right.
Am I correct in remembering that tours are limited to the page you're on?
Not anymore. I'm pretty sure that the tours can lead you to another page at the end.
And continue on that next page. Okay.
Well, I think when you get to the new page, the tour would start there, but it could be a kind of a continuation of another page, if you know what I mean. So they can be connected in that way. You can have links in them. So, to me, it seems like it's probably a good tool. It seems like it's probably a good tool for giving somebody some guidance on how to use a particular administrative page. And I don't think it's a great tool for figuring out which administrative page you actually want to be on, because you have to go to the page to get the tour, in other words.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. So, but I mean, hopefully our administrative pages are mostly clear enough. If you know why you're there, it should be fairly clear how to use them. But I mean, I don't know. I think I was the one who initially sort of postponed most of those issues on, in the meta issue. There are links to a bunch of different issues that say, write a tour for this page, write a tour for that page. And I think I postponed all of them saying, hey, let's have a strategy about which tours we want before we just create all of them. It's one more thing to maintain. Also, if you change the UI, then the tour doesn't work anymore. So anyway, so I don't know. Do we know which pages people have trouble using? And, something like the views page seems like a great idea for a tour, because even if we fix the UI in some way, it's still going to be really complicated because views are complicated. Some of the other pages, like the appearance page, I doubt anybody really has trouble with it. It's pretty straightforward. You see the themes you have, and you can disable them and enable them. I don't know I don't know if we need a tour for the appearance page.
Yep.
Do we have usability data for which administrative pages people actually have trouble using?
Yeah, I pasted the link in the Google, in the Hangout chat.
Yep.
with a high-level summary of some of the critical UX issues we have. That doesn't necessarily list individual UIs, but of course the field UI is baffling to most people on the first time. So point 2 there is lack of wayfinding, right? Onboarding, getting started instructions.
Yep.
And that's definitely where tours may help.
Okay.
Yeah. Field UI. I guess permissions, although potentially overwhelming, is relatively straightforward.
So we have sort of two ways also of giving help on a particular page. And one is in hook help, you can put a little paragraph that goes in the help block at the top that kind of explains what the page does. And then the tour is one step beyond that. It can start with an introduction and then it can point you to particular fields or whatever on the page. Actually, anything that you can identify with the CSS class or ID or whatever you can point people to. So, we have actually those hook help paragraphs on a lot of pages that sort of explain what the page does. So, whether we also need tours on all of them, I don't know. So, I think most of us probably run Drupal without the help module, so we may not even realize that those little text boxes are there. I mean, isn't that one of the first things you turn off anyway?
Not necessarily. But
yeah, well, yeah. But we don't look at it, We just go straight to where we know how to use the thing. So
I'm trying to. I think I remember that Views actually does have a tour.
Yes, it does.
But I'm not sure how to get to it. How do I see that a tour
you have
exists?
to have if the tour module is turned on and you edit a view, you should get the tour. If that's not working, that's a bug.
I edit a tour.
Edit a view.
Yeah, sorry, edit a view.
Or add a new view should work too. It's possible that the tour is broken because the route changed or something like that.
Does it? I don't know. I'm not seeing anything. Does it have a remember that I dismissed a tour? Can I dismiss?
No, there should be a button in the upper right-hand corner of the page that says tours. I saw one on some page. Hold on.
See it?
Benji sees it. Benji is starting his screen share.
Right. You can see my screen now?
Yep.
Yeah.
So here it is in the upper right-hand corner. It's a little bigger.
Yep.
Let me close that.
Yeah, I have it on mine too.
Okay.
I don't think there doesn't seem to be a tour for the wizard that you get when you first add a view, but if you're editing an existing view, you get it.
So that was fun.
Do you feel educated now?
Kind of jumps around, but anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that does exist. That's good.
Yeah, still alive.
Yeah. Well, so, I mean, the problem, if you pull up Benji's page again, or you look at your own, there's two different places that say help in the toolbar. And one is in the white section of the toolbar where you click on help and you get to the admin help page. And then the tour button is up in the black bar and says tour. So that could be kind of a problem conceptually. Like both of them have a little question mark and one says help and one says tour. So, but that's a separate issue. I mean, we can fix the buttons or whatever, but
yeah, and because who knows what tour is for.
Right. Right. So, anyway, I don't know how much to discuss here. I'm not set on the idea of making tours, but I think if we do make tours, we ought to figure out what pages need them and what don't. Like have some criteria like that. You know, they're conceptually difficult pages, like the views page. I think is everyone would probably agree that that's a difficult one, and you know maybe the field UI stuff. So.
Let's see if we can figure out a way to find it. Yeah, it's hard to get out of the chicken egg question. Do people use tours? No, because there aren't any.
Yeah.
Would it be useful? Maybe, yeah.
Right.
It's hard to say.
Yep. So I don't know.
I really think we need more info for that. I don't know which info, if the information about which pages of really information, if it's needed or if it's going to be useful. But to make a decision, I think we should start trying to find some more information.
So on comment number 130 on that issue, Jess XJM posted and said, we should unpostpone this issue and just start making at least a few tours because, you know, we know some pages that are difficult. So, I mean, that's another way to go about it is to start by saying, well, let's make some more tours and then we can, you know, test and see if they're being used.
Yeah, that's all.
Anyway, well, I don't really have anything else to say on this. Does anybody else?
Okay. Yeah, no, it's okay.
Yeah, just so I'm working as an agency, and I've never seen any tour module being used so far. I mean, never seen any client or anybody who's used this. Because, like, you know, you can develop your own tour as well as a site builder. So in theory, it would be good to, like, if you provide some custom functionality or whatever, you can build your own tour. But in reality, I've never seen an example of that being used. So yeah, it's hard to tell.
Yep.
I'll post at least a little comment there.
Yeah, put a link to your
conceptual
page.
Right.
Maybe put that into the issue summary, maybe too, in the under, you know, decide which tours would be beneficial section. That's probably a good place for it.
Yeah.
So, okay. Well, that's probably enough discussion of tour then.
Yes, that's good.
Okay.
Thanks.
So the other issue that I was interested in discussing, I'll post a link here, but it's in the ideas issue queue. So it's Drupal.org project ideas issues, and then the issue number is 2592487, and the issue title is Help System Overhaul. Not very ambitious. So a couple weeks ago, I did another demo of my proposed module for a help system, and the idea of that one was that the help topics would be stored in configuration entities, which would allow modules and themes to distribute them with their module. It would also allow a site builder to create topics, and that's, I don't know, maybe people from agencies can talk about this, but I know whenever I built sites for clients that I tried to, you know, having some place to write documentation that they could access was always kind of an issue. Like, do you want to put a node in there, but just have it sort of unpublished or hidden or some way? So that's an issue. So I proposed that, and then, you know, I've been kind of trying to get some support and reviews of the patch. It's things like that. And some people brought up an objection that the help topics really should not be editable by the administrators, because then, you know, if you're a contrib module maintainer and you write some help topics, then some administrator goes and edits them, then you're going to get issues posted saying it doesn't work as documented because somebody changed the help. So that was one objection. And then another objection about the approach in the module that I demoed a couple of weeks ago is that you're editing in an HTML editor, and that means you're putting markup in with your content. And there are some people who are morally opposed to having markup in with content in node bodies and help topic bodies and any other kind of content. To me, if you're writing prose, you need to have some way of saying that something's a paragraph or a bullet list or whatever. So if it's not HTML, you need some other way to do that. But HTML is pretty handy because it has tags for those kind of things. But there's some people that really think that the theme should have more control over how to output anything with markup. There should be no markup in your content. So there's an alternative proposal, which is to put all of the content of your topics into Twig templates, and then the theme can have full control over the markup. But that means the theme can also override the content. So anyway.
And that's
to me, I don't think a Twig template's the best place for content either. maybe a config entity is not the best place for marked up content, but a Twig template I don't think is the best place for content either. So anyway, that's kind of where we are on that one. And also the idea of the Twig template based system is that the topics would be little plugins. So you'd have sort of a YAML file, kind of like what you do with routing and with menu entries and things like that, is you'd have a YAML file where you could say, oh, here's a topic that my module is distributing. And then you put the content itself in a Twig template and surround it by the appropriate tags and things that make the content be translatable on localized.drupal.org. So. But then there would be no UI for editing the topics.
Which is a significant trade-off.
Well, yeah, but some people think it's actually the trade-off that you want. Like, you actually don't want a UI for creating topics, because then, you don't want your admins to edit the topics that are provided by core and contributed modules. So there is a locking system in my patch. Yeah. So, I mean, but, you can give an administrator permission to unlock the topics, and then they can unlock them and edit them to their heart's content. So, anyway. So
they could also hack their translations, or they could edit their code.
Sure. Yep.
Like Drupal's flexible, open source, all of those things.
Yeah, right. And if you have it Twig templates, then you can you can override the content in your theme too. So I don't really see the argument that this is better. So, but I'm kind of partial to my system because it also has a patch, and the other one's just an idea. So I would like to get something done, and I don't really care. If we go the other way, that's okay, but it doesn't have a patch. I don't think it's as good of an approach, but some people think it's better. I don't know. And the ideal system would probably be something that's not either one of those, but we're missing so many pieces from the ideal system. Like, you really want to have a way to edit paragraphs that that passes usability muster, which my original system didn't. And you want to have, people don't think in terms of paragraphs and things like that. They just want to use an HTML editor because it's easier. So anyway. And then, it really should be a content entity and not a config entity, but we don't have any way to distribute content entities with a module or theme.
Yeah, I can't meaningfully help here. I don't know. The technical decision or discussion, I can't help with. It sounds weird to me to store content in what's meant for a presentation.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't buy the argument that content should not have any markup because it has semantic markup. I mean, there's things. It's a paragraph. It's a bullet list. It's a whatever. Yeah. You can't write prose without that kind of stuff.
Well, of course, what we're trying to overhaul here is the help system, and there the content is in code rather than a Twig template or any sort of entity.
Right, but the Mark Carver in particular is saying that having the content in code is preferable to having it in something that someone can edit, because that way, no one can go and edit that help page because, and then, file an issue because the module didn't behave as was documented. Nobody reads help anyway. I don't know what he's worried about, but anyway.
Yeah, I'm still seeing this extended help system as the main use case there is, I think, still is agencies or whatever documenting specific solutions, specific extra things inside that specific site they have created for their clients, and not necessarily editing or overriding what's there.
Yeah.
But that's an assumption as well. But
yeah, I don't understand. I mean, if somebody did want to edit the thing, it would be because they've disabled some content, some functionality using a custom module, and they want to make sure that on their site there's not documentation saying you can do something because they've disabled it.
Yep.
Which is a perfectly valid reason for wanting to edit the help, I think. So, anyway. All right. Well, I just wanted to draw the attention to the fact that there's this discussion going on about, which way we should go. I would like to get this patch in so we can start writing some topics for it, but it's, so I asked for reviews, and, instead I got pushback like, oh, we shouldn't even do it that way. So
it sounds like the regular Drupal development process.
Yep, that's true.
The thing is, as in really short term, we're in freeze and release candidate phase, etc.
Oh yeah, I'm talking about for 8.6 anyway. So.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, okay. Just to be sure that, I mean, yeah. So 8.6.
Oh, I mean, I'd love to get it into 8.5, but I'm realistic.
No, nothing goes into 8.5 anymore.
No.
It's it'll take a bit before people's attention is back at new stuff for 8.6.
Yeah. Well, I was hoping to get the patch reviewed and the objections taken care of so that it would be ready when that attention shifted. But it's just my pipe dream. So
who could help figure that out? What kind of feedback do you need?
Well, I guess on the ideas issue, somebody from the usability group saying, yes, actually being able to edit the help topics is an important use case, that would carry more weight than me saying, I think it's an important use case. And maybe somebody saying, having the content in Twig templates is not a good idea, besides me saying, I don't think it's a good idea. I don't know. I mean, if you disagree with me, put that up there too. I'm not trying to say, please come support me, but of course I would love that. But, this discussion between Mark Carver and myself and Die Venner is, three people that know very little about, well, I've built sites for clients for years, so I do know something about building sites, but we're not the authorities on usability and the product managers and such. So anyway, so I feel like my proposal got derailed by this other idea that's not even close to having a patch, and I'd like to get something moving. So that in 8.6 we could have, by the time 8.6 comes out, maybe we could have some module in there with some actual topics that would be helpful. It's all supposed to be help anyway. So,
Gabor, what do you think? Do you have feelings or thoughts on this technical?
I think so. What I said is either way, people will be able to edit it. It's just how hard it is, right? So I think if it's logged by default and admins need to explicitly enable it, that's totally fine. And I don't think it's a problem. We can still be able to translate that globally. Whatever we do, translate the ship default configuration as well, and then you can edit that, and then we don't continue translating that once it's edited. So we have a whole process for these things.
Yeah, to
So
me,
it's not
there's
like
very little. Sorry, go ahead.
It's not like there's no precedent.
Yeah, to me, it feels like there's very little. So if it were in Twig, to me, it feels like there would be very little overlap between the people knowing how to handle Twig files and the people wanting to write the actual documentation.
Yeah.
Whereas in Jen's proposal, we have an actual UI that you can give to people who care about creating those bits of content, right? In a user-friendly way. So that's where it stands for me. Okay.
Okay, thanks. If one or two of you could comment on the issue, that would be great.
Yep.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay.
Okay. So do we want to move over to the field UI discussion?
Okay. I was the other day on the JavaScript redesign. No, I don't remember the name of the initiative. Modernizing the JavaScript initiative, and they were trying to look for places where to start. I mean, pages or maybe patterns or so on. And at the end, the discussion went to either starting with the permissions page, because it will be a really visual change, or on the other side, going to rebuild the field UI. I'm not really sure if they are going to do both, or finally they are going to go to only with field UI. But they say that it's a really good way to showcase it. It's almost on, well, it's in a lot of admin pages, and they were saying I didn't completely got everything there because my technical skills don't let me do so. But as far as I understood, they were saying that they were going to replace only some parts with the new React components and just have a fallback with 7 or something like that. And their main question was, okay, we have the idea, what do we do now? What design should we implement? And it was like, well, no idea yet, but at least it came up. Yeah, it's a little bit soon.
Can we have the new designs, please? Yes.
Yeah. It was like, well, we could start maybe with some mock-ups or some, I don't know, wireframes or something like that. Or I don't know, if maybe we have some patterns or ideas first. And there, I'm going to share the screen because there were actually some ideas shared, and I'm going to put them into the issue.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
So, focusing on the fields UI page or the permissions page, is there a specific problem with those two pages that is trying to get solved with this new initiative, or is it just like trying to use a new tool for no particular reason?
So you're meaning the JavaScript initiative, or?
Yeah. So I mean, they want to modernize a page using the new the modernizing JavaScript initiative. They want to have a page that they can redo using modernized JavaScript or whatever. My question is, let's not redo a page that's fine. What's the problem with the page that needs to be solved? I guess. Is there a usability problem with the page now, or is there some way that it's some objective trying to make it better?
There's some various usability problems with the field UI. One of the problems that's been one of the angles that's being proposed before is that people don't think about data types being stored, which is what Drupal asks you about. They think about widgets that will show up in the form, and we do everything totally backwards. And then you need to define the data type that you're going to store, and then the variance of the data type and the cardinality and all of those things, and then you can maybe pick a widget somewhere later. And it's through a lot of confusing forms that you need to go through by the time that you can actually configure something useful. And at that time you figure out you haven't actually wanted this thing, you need to delete the whole thing and start over because you wanted the integer list and not a decimal list or whatever.
Okay, so the main problem with Field UI is the concepts are backwards from how people actually think about it.
Yeah, I need checkboxes.
Yeah. Okay, got it.
So that's the
And with and permissions is mostly a performance issue when you have enough contrib installed that it just gets hard to manage because of too much at the same time.
And it's more than just performance. You can just get an error if you have too many input fields on a form on one page, the PHP max variables or something.
Mm-hmm.
Gets exceeded.
yeah.
Yeah, and then I mean, permissions page is a smaller design space to work in than Field UI, because that's like everything right in at the core, one of the core strengths of Drupal. So
exactly, they were arguing about that. They were saying, should we jump to something so difficult? And what I understood is that they should do that. I mean, it should be the moment of doing so because they know how to do so, and as a proof of concept to show everything later and how it's working. I don't know. That was their idea. Start with something like that. I think it really could improve if we actually look to what Contentful have. For example, what we have, for example, is just a list of fields, and one, I don't know, for example, Contentful have is like this here, where you can pick different types, or for example, I think I have it here. When you are creating a field, you can just, I don't know, for example, this one, pick here, and I don't know, it's kind of more easy to use or more visual.
Mm-hmm.
It's more visual, but it still looks like you're picking the type of data first, just like in Drupal. It's just kind of more pictures.
Yeah, that's correct. I think I think Contentful has a nicer looking Field UI. It does.
Yeah, it looks nicer, but it has the same conceptual problem we were just talking about. Yeah.
Okay.
I think not exactly, because like in Contentful, you can just first pick that you want a number field, and then at the next step, you can configure if it's a decimal or an integer. While in Drupal, you have to choose it right as a first step. So it's a bit slight difference.
That's an example here, and it's something. I mean,
yeah, but you're still not you're not saying I want some checkboxes, right?
I don't know.
Yeah, seem to be, yeah.
I don't know Contentful that much. I don't know. What I was going to share was also some stuff that they shared there, and it was something that we have right now on Contrib. Is, for example, the Dreamfields module that ADEX created some time ago. I don't know what's the state, but some stuff that we already have. And this was a video for Spencer. I'm not sure if it's about something that he has done or some examples also.
This is Form Builder.
I don't know, because it has images here, so I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's all that I had. So yeah.
So, and the
Yeah, I
team
think-
was thinking to go for Field UI, right? Or both, or?
Yeah. So yeah, what do you think? I mean, for me, I think it's a really good example because it can be worked with components, and I'm not thinking only on JavaScript components. I'm thinking on design components, and it can have icons. It can have a lot of things. It can actually be a really good change. Can be a really good improvement, and I don't know, maybe have to think a little bit about that. We're just bringing it here. And I don't know, for now, well, from that meeting, I don't have more info.
So it seems like it would be really interesting to have a series of little dialogues that could ask you, start with the widget, because that's where people want to start, right? Do you want checkboxes? Do you want radio buttons? Do you want a text field? Do you want a drop-down list? And then maybe ask some question about, like, what are the options if it's a radio button? And then finally, like, how do you want to store it? Is it supposed to be text or number or whatever? And then create the field and the widget sort of behind the scenes. Like, just reversing what we do now. It sounds like that's how people think of it.
Yeah, and I think if they want to start tomorrow, they should just rewrite the Dreamfields approach, I guess, in React, because Dreamfields does a lot of that. It lets you look at pictures of widgets, and then you choose the widget, and then you say, and I wanted to store its stuff in this format, like this and like that. And then you've added it to the field, to the content type, and then that screen still looks like what we have now, I think. So it's the part of adding fields, which is interesting workflow.
Cool. So it sounds like we should not do the tour for the field UI right now.
Good point.
Yeah.
I have no idea if this will result in something for 8.6, because we're shipping only beta level stuff. So I don't know if they'll get to something, but.
Oh, right. Yeah. So maybe we should do the tour, because that getting a tour into core is a pretty simple patch.
Yeah, less just less of an effort
one
on this.
file and config install or whatever. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or config optional, I guess. Anyway.
Yeah, I think that what they wanted was having at least some options at least to show everything for 8.6, and that people can start giving feedback. Then,
Because are they planning to do this inside some alternative admin theme, or maybe you don't know? But okay. Anyway, so yeah, I'm happy to see where work happen on Field UI, because it's one of our oldest interfaces, one of the most problematic ones, and also one of the most important ones. So yeah, experiments here are good. It's good to see that the prior art we have.
I guess if they are expecting something like wireframes or something like that, maybe not final design, but something like that, we should start with some kind of issue for that. I'm not sure if there's.
Yeah, if I were to do this as a project, I would first try to make the breakdown of the main flows that exist, right?
Mm.
It's not even wireframes. It's like, yeah, flowcharts of what you can do, starting from scratch, editing something, adding something, reordering, etc.
So what?
And there's,
What did?
I mean, there's also the big distinction between setting up the form and configuring the display of the form versus configuring the display of the content. Eventually, so there's a lot in this hub that probably needs to be dehubbed a bit. Sorry.
So what they're trying to achieve, basically, they're just trying to play with React and the new framework stuff, and
No,
just do a proof of concept, or they want to do more.
The initiative is now called the JavaScript Modernization Initiative, but the goal is not to modernize the JavaScript. The goal is to provide Drupal with better usable interfaces, right? It's a means to the end of a better UX. I mean, our drag and drop is tied to a table right now, right? So we could also look into, okay, make drag and drop generic, or and Field UI is basically also a look at a database table made visual. We have everything, and we put everything into select lists and drop downs, etc.
Just having pictures is not going to make it necessarily more usable if it's conceptually wrong.
Yeah, probably it's what Roy was saying. I mean, it's a process until we design, but before the design, there have to be some other decisions.
Yeah.
So for these first workflows, how do you think it could be the best way of working on them?
A very, very big wall, lots of sticky notes, lots of a few people in a room for a day or two, plotting all the things, prioritizing some of the interactions.
I think you should definitely fly me to Spain.
I think that's critical. Yeah.
Sure. Come to Barcelona. Come on. I can organize some Drupal or something. When you're here.
Or maybe we should pick some warmer location. Right now we have lots of snow on the ground and it's freezing cold, so maybe someplace like Fiji would be better.
Sure. Okay. So maybe Nishoku is not the right place. Maybe an online tool.
Yeah. So what might work is something like this Hangout, but then with our webcams or whatever, so that we can actually share our live sketch, etc. I mean, a couple of people together in a Hangout could also work on that initial breakdown, right? And at least clarify the design space and identify which workflows, which parts of which flows inside all the possible interactions are useful to separate from the big hub of Field UI we have now. That could make an interesting exercise and would be an interesting potential for improvement without having to redo the whole thing, right? Yeah. That's where Dreamfields is mostly about adding new fields, right? And then starting from the widget, etc. So that's an interesting reversal and relatively contained to only the adding of a new field.
Yeah.
If we can come up with a couple of examples like that, I think that would be the most useful and the right place to start.
You mean like Contentful or? Dreamfield?
I don't know.
Okay.
We'll have to see.
Oh, that last screenshot looked really good.
This.
Yes. Yeah,
That's,
that looks like what you want, huh?
Yeah, this is Dreamfields. This
Yeah.
patch is
Dreamfields, yeah.
80% done
yeah.
in the current.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that the challenge with Contentful is they have some UI to enter data, but it's not very rich UI. So you need to add like various other JavaScript components to make their UI more rich, because they are, after all, like a structured content store.
Yeah.
That's their strength.
Yeah, they have nothing about displaying or.
So maybe we should completely separate the display from the.
I think that's one of the first conclusions we could make. That
Okay.
So a virtual UX sprint.
Sorry?
A virtual UX sprint would probably be a good place to start, right?
Okay.
Would be interesting.
Yeah. Okay.
So, do people ever think about? I mean, starting from the widget is one way to start, and starting from how you want it displayed might be another thing to think about.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've had clients that thought about things in both ways. You know, in some cases, it's something behind the screens, like it's a yes or no checkbox, or radio button type thing, where it's gonna determine whether this particular content item is shown on page A or page B, or hidden or shown or popped to the top of the list or something like that. But then sometimes it's something that you actually want to be displayed, and like an image, and they think about it as, oh, I have this image that's going to be the thumbnail for everything, and they don't really care what the widget is, because they just want to be able to have an image, So I think sometimes people do approach things from what they're going to use it for on the output, and sometimes they think of things from what they want it to be on the form.
Yeah.
It's a really good point, and I actually kind of worried with that, because if we relate too much about the final display, we can have troubles, because if we are thinking on decoupled, or maybe, I don't know, let's just think that we have a website and also part of this content is displayed in a smart fridge or something like that. Is it going to be displayed in the same way, or maybe some stuff in an app is going to be, I don't know, a radio button, and the other one is going to be another visualization? And I'm a little bit worried about that, because I'm not sure how.
Well, this is why you really need to get somebody thinking about the underlying storage in the first place, and that's why it makes sense to think about that in that way, rather than thinking about the widget or thinking about the display, but to think about what kind of data goes with this content, and how, and what type is each piece of data. And that's why you really do need to think about it that way, and why it sort of makes sense, but it's not the way people actually approach it.
Yeah, it makes sense. Like when we were talking about the new admin UI, and so I think I said that we may need to separate, like we may need to use something like a meta field as a concept. So some field that are not for display, but for control something. And in terms of UI, I would love to see that on the right hand side, when the buttons are for like publishing and alter and whatever, that's all meta and not content really. So maybe a concept of having meta fields and content fields.
Right, like the ones that you add, like some taxonomy fields are kind of that way, that's just going to determine which page it gets displayed on a website, or
what you said, like
or some
yes
search
or no,
terms
that
or something.
Control if this piece of content will display on this type of screen,
or you might even have a keywords field that's uses to enhance search in some way, or something like that.
Yeah. So everything that's not going to the output, but it's used for control the behavior.
Yeah, I mean, and we don't want to ignore, of course not, we don't want to ignore that you're actually also data modeling here. It's the problem is that we're leading with it in a very abstract, not very user-friendly way. So maybe we can even have a place where you can still start data modeling, but still make that more understandable. And because that all happens in these 4 tabs on the field UI, I think that separation of concerns could already help a lot. And then there could still be a required sequence in how you go about that. But well, lots to figure out there.
Yeah. Okay. So,
let's come back to this, Christina, and see if we can organize
yeah, something like that.
Some kind of get-together.
Yeah. Okay. So, and about one last thing about this issue, there's no too many answers here, so I'm gonna start to add myself some stuff.
Yeah.
And if anyone here wants to add something to.
Yeah, I already started to look at Contentful, so I'll add some more on that. But somebody already added some Contentful screenshots in the mood board.
Christina, I don't think you posted the issue link.
Oh, sorry. It was yeah, I'm gonna post here on the chat, and the issue is 2944689. I'm gonna post in Slack also. Okay. That's more like a research issue for patterns from other CMS, or I don't know.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Let's see if we can return to that one next week.
Sure. I'm gonna prepare something for them.
Cool.
Okay. So that was all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, great, thanks. And we are just out of time now. So thanks everyone for coming. And
Thank
keep
you.
up the great work.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
See you all.